We are so thankful to be joined today by the Director of Hitting Performance and Major League Hitting Coach for the Kansas City Royals, Alec Zumwalt. Thank you so much for sitting down with me before the game today to talk a little hitting for a little bit.
Oh, sounds great. I'm glad to be here.
All right, so we'll start with kind of a broad topic that's got a range of outcomes, but how do you define what a good at bat is? Because there's so many different things you can do in baseball correctly and still line out to the center fielder or whatever, or a 7 or 8 pitch at bat. How do you define that? Because there's so many different outcomes you can have day to day.
Well, that's a really good question. More than anything else, I think a really good at bat is when you have a plan and you execute that plan, whatever it may be. And every single hitter has a different plan. We create a lot of scattering reports and advanced reports for the hitters, but they're all individually based. We have a plan for the team. We have individual conversations for those players to execute that plan. And truthfully, that's what's a good at bat. The result is the result, and we can't. This isn't a video game. You can't steer the ball. Once it's off the bat, it's over. If you're swung at the right pitch that you were looking for in the right zone, that's a quality at bat for me. Years ago, we used to actually keep track of quality at bats. I got rid of that personally. Me and Drew Saylor and Keone and Toes had a lot of conversations around it. I don't understand how having a quality at bat result wise is does anything for the hitter other than say, hey, great job, you had a quality at bat. It's just the same as having a pat on the butt, right? It's not really saying anything. But if you executed your plan when you went up there, you swung at the right pitches, you didn't swing at the pitches the pitcher was trying to get you swing at, whatever that outcome is, it doesn't matter as long as you executed your personal plan.
How do you get a guy to continue to mentally know that the process was correct when, say, they go 0 for 4 with 4 hard hit balls? That obviously you can see the batting average and whatever else on the scoreboard, and you see you're 0 for 4. How do you keep a guy knowing, like, I'm doing the right things, the results just aren't there right now?
That's another really good question, and that comes down to the individual. Every individual, when they go through one of those stretches, has to deal with it differently, right? But at the end of the day, the resulting, where they're trying to chase the hits, never leads to production, and it never leads to the good at-bats. And actually, it's very counterintuitive because then it takes away from their plan. Now they just start swinging at something just because I got to put a ball in play and give myself a chance. I need a blooper. No, you don't. You need to look for solid contact. Over the course of the entire season, 162 games, that's the message that we're trying to convey to them is that, hey, in this 40 at-bat stretch right here, and it happened to Vinny over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He had some good at-bats, swung at the right pitches, hit him hard, in San Diego, the first baseman stole several balls away from him and almost took another one away on the ball that hit off the bag that actually did, go in his favor. But the point is you've got to just continue that process. And I think that I had a coach years ago tell me that, the really good players are actually boring because they keep doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Because they know what works and they don't veer from that. And I think that's the message we're trying to convey to the whole, but the individual conversations, that's the personality that you got to know. You got to know how to deal with that guy because, truthfully, there's some guys in the game that they'd be happy to hit, 2 for 4 with 2 dunks that just fell in over the second baseman, and they're happy about it. But at the reality, I think, good winning hitters are going to be the guys that are selling out to executing that plan, hitting the ball hard, and then after that, I did my job.
So you talk about the individualized, plans for every hitter without giving away too many trade secrets. Just as a Royals fan, I need to know what a hitter's meeting with Salvador Perez looks like because we know he's up there to hack and he's going to make contact more often than not, but he's going to free swing. So how do you keep him kind of the reins on that a little bit and keep him from, swinging at everything basically?
Well, I think the beauty of Salvi is he's continuing to grow and he's continuing to understand a little bit more every single day of where we're going with this. And, truthfully, yeah, Salvi can hit balls from the other batter's box in a wild card game. We know that, right? But at the same time, it's the focus built on, we had a conversation in spring training built around not worrying about some of the edge pitches, but more focus on the pitches that are the ones we should do damage on. Because at the end of the day, that's where you're going to win and lose ball games is mistakes. And I've said that numerous times, on the record. And I believe that is that the mistake pitches are the ones we got to do the damage on. The ones that are on the edge, 2 strikes, we're trying to put it in play. We're trying to give ourselves a chance. Like, I get that. But, when you get that 1-1 breaking ball that's right over the middle of the plate, and with Salvi, it doesn't even have to be in the zone, but if it's over the plate and below the zone a tick, he can hit it in the foul.
Oh, yeah.
We know that. So just getting him to continuing to refine his process it's been a lot of fun. It's been a challenge, but it's been, he's very open. Even last night in the game, going into those at bats, we had a plan, and he had a plan, and he stuck to his plan his last few at bats, and you saw what happened. He came up big, 2 different at bats.
Well, and I'm so glad we're doing this today on Saturday afternoon after yesterday. I know that the game didn't go your guys' way, but to see Bobby Witt Jr. go out 4 for 5, 2 bombs, a double, triple shy of the cycle, almost had that triple, but the ball happened to go out there in left center. What have you seen from him over the last week? Moving him out of the leadoff spot, he's going to bounce around in the middle of the order. What have you seen from him moving away from something that long-term the team believes he's going to be that leadoff hitter, but right now moving him down seems to have worked. He's hitting almost 500 over the last couple of days.
What y'all don't see is what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And regardless of where Bobby's hitting in the order, the work that he's been putting in here lately is starting to really pay off and get him to feel more comfortable. And, Bobby's a special talent. We know that. But simplifying has been his main focus since he was in the minor leagues. He's got all the ingredients to be what a lot of people think he might be, right? But what Bobby feels internally sometimes is not based on where he's hitting in the lineup. It's just a matter of him understanding his approach and just continuing to trust in what he's trying to do. We forget sometimes how young he is.
Yeah.
Not
even 23 yet.
Right.
It's crazy.
He's coming up here pretty quick, but Bobby is doing all the work behind the scenes to just continue to improve. And I think it doesn't matter. Like for me, it doesn't matter. And I don't get into too much with the lineup construction. I know Q's asked me a lot of really good questions this year that I haven't been asked in the past about lineup, and he's asked others as well. That's the beauty of Q. He asks for a lot of people's input. That's why he's a good leader, and he's going to make that decision. But, I think Bobby, you could argue Bobby could hit in a number of spots.
100%.
Right. So I think, again, just getting Bobby into a place where his at-bats are comfortable, his approach is comfortable, the rest, it doesn't matter, is wherever he hits. I think he's just in a place right now where here we are, it's almost June, and he's starting to really find his stride.
How difficult is it for a guy to make adjustments, either mentally or physically, during the season? There's only so many off days. There's only so much time in between games before you got 4 at-bats the next day against big league pitching. I know it's very broad.
Some good ones, man. This is great. What I learned in the few years of doing the minor leagues, you have that ability to understand that, yes, winning the game matters. It does. I will never buy into the mindset that player development without winning just happens, right?
Right.
I came up in a system years ago in Atlanta where, we were all about you got to win in the big leagues, doesn't matter in the minor leagues. And, I just disagree a little bit with that, and I hate saying that because JJ and Dayton, they were all there when I was coming up. But the mindset I feel like we've grown here with winning in the minor leagues, and this goes back to the Hosmer, Kane, Moose group. They won in the minor leagues. They came up. I believe in that model. I think that what we've done the last several years in the organization of being able to have the development of players and have the winning at the levels has been tremendous for that group. But the development that happens day to day in the minor leagues is so different than the day to day expectations to win, and and can continue to build progress with your own abilities and
absolutely
talents, right? So it's just 2 completely different beasts. And coming up here midway last year, it was drinking from a fire hose, in that regards, because I'm coming in gung ho, let's do this, let's do that, and understanding that you got major league veterans like Benintendi and Merrifield, Carlos Santana, they've got their set routines, and there's little things you want to make adjustments on, but it's really hard. It's definitely hard. In the minor leagues, you can make those adjustments, and you can help the guys see, hey, look, this may not help you today, but in 2 years when you're in AA, or 2 years when you're in AAA, or when you're making your major league debut, you're going to be a better player because you did X, Y, and Z. Not so much here. It's just every day. I like to describe a big league day as it's a roller coaster. From the time I wake up until, game time, it's that climb up to the very top.
Yeah.
And after that, it's the roller coaster. Some days it's, nice and easy, lazy, wooden coaster. And sometimes it's multiple loop-de-loops. So
All right, so I've peppered you with enough thought-provoking stuff. Let's talk about love of baseball.
Yeah.
Who was the guy for you growing up? Who was the guy or the team that helped you fall in love with baseball?
Oh, wow. Good one. I grew up in a small town, first 12 years of my life in Northwest Arizona, and we were fortunate enough. My dad would take us down to spring training for spring break. So we'd go for a couple days. We didn't have cable as a kid, so all we had was WGN, TBS. I think we had a couple times, but I don't remember ever watching the Braves. But we watched the Cubs. So Ryan Sandberg was my favorite player as a young little boy. I remember all the way back. Just Ryan Sandberg. I would collect as many Ryan Sandberg cards as I could. So we'd get to go to spring training, and my dad played college baseball, so he had a great background in it. And we would go see the workouts. We'd go for batting practice. We'd sit down as close to behind home plate as we could. So that opened my eyes to baseball. I didn't play on a grass field until I was 11.
Oh, wow.
It was total dirt in Kingman, Arizona. And then we moved to North Carolina, and absolute hotbed for baseball. Minor league baseball, college baseball, everywhere we looked. And even that first spring that we moved to North Carolina, my dad on a Saturday morning is reading the newspaper, goes, "Hey, we need to go see this hot shot over playing for Greensboro." I'm like, okay, it's the Yankees' top prospect. It's Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, just growing up. We went to a lot of minor league games. Winston-Salem at the time was the Reds organization. I actually saw Scott Sharp, our assistant general manager, vice president, get to see him play when he was a pro. Didn't know it, obviously, but I think the growth really exploded when we moved to North Carolina. And my best friend, who was my biggest mentor, became my coach when we moved there. And I became a total baseball rat.
The minor leagues is such a cool place to learn the love of the game as a fan. I remember going to see King Felix's last start in AAA before he got called up in Seattle, up in Tacoma.
Yeah,
it was like a random Wednesday night, and the park is sold out. Why is
that's pretty cool?
Some season ticket holder was like, "Watch this kid pitch."
I was at his perfect game.
Oh wow!
I was at that perfect game.
Oh my!
I was advancing for us back then, and it was top 5 cool things I've ever seen in my life.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah.
So to just go back to the minor leagues for a second, you spent a lot of time in the minor leagues. Can you give us like one of those like peak minor league baseball life in the bus league stories that you have? Well, that you can tell on a podcast.
Yeah, I got too many. Really bus stories. I mean, probably the one that stands out the most is we were coming back. I was in Huntsville, and we're coming back from Mobile back to Huntsville in the middle of the night. We're about an hour south of Birmingham, and a logging truck dropped a log in front of us, and we hit it smack on.
No.
And our bus driver was so adamant, "I can get it back. I can get us home," because it's 4 a.m. kind of deal. And we drove from Birmingham, just right outside Birmingham, to all the way to Huntsville with all the windows shattered out, the beeping alarm of like the airbags going off. And by this point, everybody's like delirious, and our coaches, our manager is so mad. Don Money he just finally quit yelling at us because we had an ongoing joke that year. I was always in charge of getting movies. Back then we'd go to Blockbuster and get a movie, right, for the road trip. But our pitching coach was adamant, "I'll get the movies." And he never did. And he'd only bring one movie with him, and it was always Slapshot.
Oh.
So we, in the middle of the night, everybody's laughing, everybody's mad. And then, we're just making a joke. "Hey, Rich, put in Slapshot." And just Don Money had enough of us. He said he was going to throw somebody out the window, but we made it back. I mean, it took us like 3.5 hours to get back.
Oh,
it's
my
not
goodness.
that far, but we crawled into the parking lot because the way the bus driver says, we pull over at a truck stop, we're going to wait 4 or 5 hours for another bus to come get us. I can get us home. And I don't know how we got home that night, but we did. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's one hell of a story.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness. That's one of those you will truly never forget.
Well, I spent enough time in the Southern League. I've got plenty of Southern League stories. So.
Oh, man. I need to ask you maybe a couple off air. If you could go back and face any pitcher in Major League history, I'm not asking you to get a knock off of them, but just to see their stuff in the box, who'd it be?
Nolan Ryan, without a doubt. I've watching fastball really was fascinating.
Yes.
Right. And, I know everybody wants to talk about Bob Feller, and, I'm sure there's others, right?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely wouldn't want to face Bob Gibson. I know part of that, but I know Nolan Ryan was just as intimidating, people would say, but I really would want to see that because, again, where my interest was really peaking as a young player was at the tail end of his career when he still had it. I remember when, he threw that no-hitter, and it was in 92. I've got all the cards from that Upper Deck set of all of his no-hitters. So, like, to me, it's absolutely Nolan Ryan.
The two that I always go back to is Satchel Paige, just because I want to see what 103 dotted right on the middle end looks like, and then Sandy Koufax. This is that rising fastball. This is that one clip from his perfect game where that fastball is just rising up.
I'm fascinated with all that because I wish we knew what their metrics were. So we can compare to where we are right now, and all of them. I mean, shoot, I think Babe Ruth would be kind of cool to see us from a pitching standpoint. You look at the numbers and you go, wow, he could have been probably a pretty special pitcher.
Yeah, or anyone from that era that threw like a Bob Feller compared with like the average pitcher that was probably throwing like 86 on a good day. Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
I'm not going there.
It's great. I'm not trying to slander anybody else, but it's just like he was the guy at that era that was throwing that hard.
Yeah, I'd love to see though Nolan Ryan. That'd be pretty cool.
That's a great one. Last question. We'll go again, kind of baseball history, but if you could go back and just watch one moment, you're in the stands in your favorite spot. What moment would you want to go back and watch?
Oof. It's cool because I think that's a really good question for me because I was watching the game when Sid Bream scored. I was watching that game at my grandmother's house. Wow. For the Braves beating the Pirates. Like, that was really cool to see it on TV, right? I was watching the Joe Carter home run on TV. Those are two really special ones. Man, I don't know. I think honestly seeing the Sid Bream might be that for me, and it might be because deep down I'm still a Braves guy, but like seeing him score and having zero chance, like poor guy was hobbling around, and that definitely was a pretty cool moment.
That's awesome. Well, Alec, thank you so much for your time today. We'll hopefully get to do this again soon. I really appreciate taking the time. I got to nerd out about hitting for a little bit. I was really excited about that. Thank you so much.
Love to talk more. Appreciate it.